Jake Sullivan stared at the readings on his screen and frowned. Something was out there in the darkness of space, and it was not supposed to be there. His ship, the Explorer 7, had been traveling through this region for 3 weeks without finding anything unusual. Now, near the edge of the Horsehead Nebula, his sensors had picked up something that made no sense. "Amy, come take a look at this," Jake called to his medical officer. Amy Carlson walked over to his station and looked at the display. Her eyes went wide. "That can't be right. Is that a structure?" "That's what the computer says," Jake replied. "It's big, too, about the size of a small moon, out here, in the middle of nowhere." Amy shook her head. "We need to report this to Earth's command." Jake knew she was right, but curiosity burned inside him. They were 6 months away from Earth at their current speed. By the time they reported it and someone came to investigate, years would pass. This could be the discovery of a lifetime, and he did not want to miss it. "We'll report it," Jake said. "But first, let's get closer, just to get better readings." The crew agreed, and the Explorer 7 changed course. As they approached, the structure became visible on their main screen. It looked like a temple, with tall pillars and walls that seemed to glow with a faint blue light, but it was floating in space with no planet beneath it, no support structure, nothing to explain how it could exist. "This is impossible," Victor Hayes said from the engineering station. "There's no power source I can detect, but it's clearly generating some kind of field. The gravity around it is all wrong." Jake ordered the ship to stop at a safe distance. They spent the next 2 hours scanning the structure, but none of their instruments could tell them much. The walls seemed to be made of a material that did not exist in any database. The energy readings made no sense, and there was no sign of who had built it or why. "I'm going over there," Jake announced. "Commander, that's not a good idea," Amy said immediately. "We have no idea what that thing is. It could be dangerous. It could also be the most important discovery humans have ever made," Jake countered. "We can't just leave without learning more." "Then send a probe," Victor suggested. We did, 3 of them. They all stopped working the moment they got within 100 meters of the structure. Jake stood up from his chair. "I'm going in a suit. If something goes wrong, you pull me back immediately." His crew did not like it, but they knew Jake well enough to know when he had made up his mind. They helped him into his spacesuit and attached a strong tether line to his waist. If anything happened, they could reel him back to the ship in seconds. Jake stepped out of the airlock and used his suit thrusters to fly toward the temple. As he got closer, he felt a strange sensation, like something was watching him. The feeling grew stronger with each passing moment, but he pushed forward. When he reached the outer wall, he found an opening, a doorway that seemed to have been waiting for him. He hesitated for only a moment before passing through. Inside, Jake gasped. The temple was huge, far larger than it had appeared from outside. The walls stretched up into darkness, and the floor beneath his feet glowed with patterns that shifted and changed. He took a step forward, then another, drawn deeper into the structure. "Jake, your readings just went crazy." Amy's voice crackled in his helmet. "We're seeing energy spikes all around you. Get out of there." "Not yet," Jake said. "There's something at the center. I can see it." He walked through corridors that seemed to bend in ways that hurt his eyes. The laws of physics did not seem to apply here. Up and down lost meaning. Left and right changed places. But somehow, Jake knew where he was going, as if the temple itself was guiding him. Finally, he entered a massive chamber. At its center, suspended in a column of pure white light, was a being that took his breath away. She appeared humanoid, but her skin glowed with an inner radiance. Her eyes were pools of starlight, and her hair moved as if blown by a wind that did not exist. She was beautiful and terrible at the same time, and Jake knew immediately that he was looking at something far beyond human. Understanding, the being's eyes opened and focused on him. When she spoke, her voice filled his mind rather than his ears. "A human," she said, and her tone carried surprise. "It has been so long since I last saw your kind. You were barely learning to use fire when I was imprisoned here." Jake tried to speak, but found his voice would not work. The presence of this being was overwhelming. "Do not be afraid," she continued. "I am Lyristra of the Ascended Ones. I have been trapped in this place for 10,000 of your years, bound by the laws of my people for the crime of caring too much about species like yours." She moved within her prison, and Jake saw that energy chains wrapped around her wrists and ankles. They pulsed with power that made his suit's instruments scream warnings. "You have entered this temple of your own free will," Lyristra said. "The ancient laws recognize this. Therefore, I am bound to grant you 3 wishes. Anything you desire within certain limits can be yours. Power, knowledge, wealth, immortality of a kind, All you need do is speak your wish aloud. Jake's mind raced. 3 wishes. The stuff of fairy tales and ancient stories, but this was real. He could feel the truth of her words in his bones. What are the limits? He managed to ask. Lyristra smiled, and it was like watching a star being born. You cannot wish direct harm upon another thinking being. You cannot wish for true immortality, as death is a fundamental law even I cannot break. And you cannot wish to change the past, as that would break causality itself. Beyond these things, nearly anything is possible. Jake stood in silence, his mind working through the implications. He could wish for anything. He could solve Earth's energy crisis. He could cure diseases. He could make himself powerful beyond measure. The possibilities were endless. But as he looked at Lyr, trapped in her prison of light, alone for 10,000 years, only one thought filled his mind. Before I make any wishes, Jake said slowly, can I ask you a question? You may ask, why were you imprisoned? What did you do? Lyristra's expression grew sad. I helped species like yours. I gave them knowledge, tools, guidance. My people believe that younger races must develop on their own, without interference. They say that helping them only weakens them in the long run. But I could not watch civilizations destroy themselves when I had the power to help. So they put me here, where I could do no more harm, as they call it. Jake nodded slowly. He looked at this powerful being, this goddess trapped for the crime of compassion, and he made his decision. I know what my first wish is, he said. The weeks that followed changed everything aboard the Explorer 7. Lyristra's presence became less strange and more normal as the crew learned to work around her. She kept her word and adjusted to their schedules, entering her meditative state. During the ship's night cycle and being active during that day, she sat in on crew meetings, listened to their conversations, and watched their daily routines with endless curiosity. Victor taught her about the ship's engines, though she had to simplify her suggestions since most of her knowledge was too advanced for their technology. Amy showed her human medical procedures, and Lyristra shared information about biological systems that made Amy's head spin. But it was the small moments that taught Lyristra the most about humanity. She watched the crew play card games during their free time, arguing and laughing over meaningless points. She observed how they formed friendships, how they supported each other during difficult shifts, how they maintained hope even though they were millions of miles from home. One evening, she found Victor staring at a photo on his tablet. It showed a woman and 2 children, all smiling at the camera. Your family? Lyristra asked. Victor jumped, not having heard her approach. Yeah, my wife, Karen, and our kids, Luke and Sophie. I haven't seen them in 8 months. Won't see them for another 10. That must be difficult. It is, Victor admitted. But they understand. This job, exploring space, it's important. We're building humanity's future out here. You sacrifice time with those you love for the good of others, Lyristra observed. That is noble, Victor shrugged. It's just what we do. Somebody has to explore. Somebody has to push boundaries. Might as well be us. Lyristra studied the photo. The children in it would be older by the time Victor returned home. They would have changed, grown, experienced things without their father present. And yet Victor had chosen this path anyway, knowing what it would cost him. Humanity is remarkable, Lyristra said softly. Over time she learned about Earth's history. Jake gave her access to the ship's database, and she spent days absorbing information. She read about wars and peace treaties. She learned about art and music and literature. She studied human philosophy, religion, and science. What she found both inspired and troubled her. Humans were capable of incredible kindness and terrible cruelty, often at the same time. They built beautiful things and destroyed them. They reached for the stars while fighting among themselves. They were contradictions walking on 2 legs, and Lyristra found them fascinating. You are so young, she said to Jake one day. You have barely left your homeworld, and already you dream of touching the cosmos. My people spent millions of years just learning to work together on a single planet. We don't really work together yet, Jake said honestly. Earth is divided. We have over 200 nations, and they don't all get along. This ship is part of the United Earth Fleet, but United is generous. We cooperate on space exploration, but back home, there's still conflict. That is normal for a young species, Lyristra assured him. You will learn, in time. The question is whether you will learn before you destroy yourselves. That's a cheerful thought. I do not mean to discourage you, Lyristra said, but I have seen many species reach this point in their development. Some survive and grow, others do not. The difference is usually whether they can overcome their fear of each other. Jake considered this. What do you think Earth's chances are? Better than most, Lyristra said. You have something many species lack. You have hope, even in your darkest moments. Humans seem to believe that tomorrow can be better. That is a powerful thing. As they talked, Amy approached. She looked troubled. Commander, I need to show you something, she said. I've been going through our long-range sensor data from the past few weeks. I found something concerning. They followed her to the sensor station. Amy pulled up a series of readings and pointed to a pattern in the data. These are energy signatures, she explained. I've been seeing them on and off for the past week. They're faint, but they're there, and they're following us. Jake frowned. Following us, are you sure? Pretty sure. The signatures appear, move closer to us, then disappear. Then they show up again a few hours later, always behind us. Lyristra studied the data. Her expression grew serious. These are not natural phenomena. What are they? Jake asked. Ships, Lyristra said. Cloaked ones. Someone is tracking you. The news sent a chill through the crew. They were far from Earth, far from any help. If someone was following them, it could only mean trouble. Can you tell who they are? Victor asked. Lyristra focused her attention on the space behind them. Her consciousness expanded, reaching out across vast distances. The crew watched as her eyes began to glow brighter, and the air around her shimmered. After a moment, she pulled back. There are 3 ships. They are from a species called the Krell. They are scavengers and opportunists. They must have detected your ship and decided to follow you, waiting for a chance to attack and steal your technology. Can we outrun them? Jake asked. No, Lyristra said. Their ships are faster than yours. Can we fight them? Your weapons would do little against their shields. The crew exchanged worried looks. They were outmatched and far from home. Even their communications with Earth had a delay of several weeks due to the distance. However, Lyristra continued, they do not know I am here. That gives us an advantage. You can fight them, Amy asked. I can do better than fight them, Lyristra said. I can make them leave and never return. But I will need your commander's permission first. Jake understood. She was bound by her debt of honor to protect him, but she wanted his approval before taking action. It was a matter of respect. Do what you need to do, Jake said, but don't kill them unless you have to. If they're just scavengers, maybe they can be scared off. Lyristra smiled. As you wish. She closed her eyes and her form began to fade. The crew gasped as she seemed to dissolve into pure light. That light shot through the walls of the ship as if they were not there, streaming out into space toward the pursuing vessels. On the Krell ships, alarms suddenly blared. The captains stared at their screens in horror as a being of pure energy appeared before them. Lyristra's voice filled their minds, and her words were not kind. You hunt those under my protection. This is your only warning. Leave now, or face consequences beyond your imagination. The Krell were a practical species. They knew when they were outmatched. The 3 ships turned and fled at maximum speed, their engines screaming as they pushed beyond safe limits in their panic to escape. Lyristra returned to the Tier 7, her form solidifying once more. The crew stared at her with new respect and perhaps a bit of fear. They will not return, she said calmly, and they will spread word among their kind that this ship is not to be touched. You should have no more trouble from scavengers. Jake let out a breath he had not realized he was holding. Thank you. It is my honor to protect you, Lyristra said, though I must admit, it felt good to use my power again. 10,000 years of imprisonment left me restless. The incident changed how the crew viewed Lyristra before. She had been a curiosity, a strange being they did not fully understand. Now they understood that she was also their guardian, someone who would stand between them and danger. As the Explorer 7 continued its journey home, the bond between the crew and their unexpected passenger grew stronger. They were no longer just tolerating her presence. They were beginning to see her as one of them. Lyristra looked at the human with mild curiosity. In all her long years of imprisonment, she had granted wishes to many different species. The pattern was always the same. They would enter the temple, hear her offer, and immediately begin making demands. Some wanted power to rule their worlds. Others wanted knowledge to advance their civilizations. A few wanted wealth beyond measure. But they all wanted something for themselves. She had seen greed in 1,000 different forms. She had watched beings throw away their wishes on foolish desires. She had granted requests that led to the downfall of empires and the rise of tyrants. The wishes always revealed the true nature of those who made them, and that nature was rarely kind. This human seemed different though. He had asked her a question first. He had wanted to know about her imprisonment, about her crime. That was unusual. Most beings did not care about her story. They only cared about what she could do for them. Speak your wish, Lyristra said. preparing herself for whatever selfish request was about to come. Jake looked directly into her eyes. His face was hidden behind his helmet, but she could sense his emotions through the connection their conversation had created. What she felt surprised her. There was no greed there, no hunger for power, only a simple, clear determination. "I wish for you to be free," Jake said. The words hung in the air between them. Lyristra stared at him, certain she had misheard, but the ancient magic of the temple had already recognized the wish. It was valid. It was spoken. It had power. "What?" she whispered. "I wish for you to be free," Jake repeated. "I want you released from this prison. No more chains. No more being trapped here alone." Lyristra felt something she had not experienced in millennia. Shock. Complete and total shock. She had been preparing for another predictable wish, another boring request. Instead, this human had used one of his 3 wishes, 1/3 of unlimited cosmic power, to free her. "You cannot be serious," she said. "Do you understand what you are giving up? You could have anything. Power to reshape worlds. Knowledge that would advance your species by thousands of years. Wealth that would make you richer than kings. And you waste a wish on me." "It's not a waste," Jake said calmly. "You've been alone here for 10,000 years. That's wrong. Nobody should be punished like that, especially not for trying to help others." "I am not of your species," Lyristra protested, though she could feel her voice shaking. "I am not even of your dimension of existence. Why would you care what happens to me?" Jake shrugged, a very human gesture. "Because you're a person. Because 10,000 years alone sounds like torture. Because the crime you committed was having too much compassion. That's not something you should be punished for." Lyristra searched his mind for deception, for hidden motives, for some trick she was missing. There was nothing. The human meant exactly what he said. He genuinely wanted her to be free, and he expected nothing in return. "I do not understand your kind," she said softly. "Most people don't understand us either." Jake replied with a smile she could hear in his voice. "We're pretty confusing sometimes." The temple began to shake. The ancient magic that had bound Lyristra for so long recognized the wish and moved to fulfill it. The chains of energy around her wrists and ankles began to crack. Light poured from the fractures, bright enough to make Jake shield his eyes. Lyristra felt the bonds breaking, felt freedom rushing back into her existence. It was agony and ecstasy combined. For 10,000 years, the chains had been part of her. Now they were being torn away, and every moment of separation hurt. But beneath the pain was joy, pure and overwhelming joy. The chains shattered. The column of light that had held her vanished. Lyristra fell to her knees on the glowing floor, gasping. She had not breathed in 10,000 years. She had not moved freely. She had not felt anything but the cold touch of her prison. Now she was free. Jake started to move toward her, but she held up a hand to stop him. She needed a moment, just a moment to remember what freedom felt like. Slowly, Lyristra stood, her form solidified, becoming more real, more present. The temple around them began to change. Without the prison magic, it was just a structure now, just ancient walls and floors. The impossible geometry faded. The shifting corridors became simple hallways. She looked at Jake with new eyes. Eyes that saw him not as another being to grant wishes to, but as the person who had freed her when no one else ever had. "You have done something no other being in the universe has ever done," Lyristra said. "In 10,000 years, hundreds of species have entered this temple. Thousands of individuals have stood where you stand now. Every single one of them used their wishes for themselves. You are the first to wish for me." Jake seemed embarrassed by her words. "It was the right thing to do." "The right thing," Lyristra repeated. Such a simple concept, such a powerful one. I had forgotten how beautiful it could be. She stepped forward, and the distance between them vanished. She was in front of Jake now, close enough to touch. Her hand reached out and rested on his helmet. With a thought, she created a field of breathable atmosphere around them both, and Jake's suit automatically retracted his helmet. "You still have 2 wishes," Lyristra said, "and now I am free to grant them without the constraints of the prison. I could give you anything, truly anything. What do you desire?" Jake thought for a moment. "Honestly, I just want to go home, back to my ship, back to Earth eventually. I have a job to do, a crew to take care of. I don't need wishes for that." "Then I offer you something else," Lyristra said. "Among my people, the Ascended Ones, there are laws older than most stars. One of those laws is the debt of honor. You have freed me from eternal imprisonment. That debt can never be fully repaid, but I am bound by honor to try. I offer you my service, my knowledge, and my protection for as long as you shall live." "That's not necessary," Jake protested. "I didn't free you to get something in return." "I know," Lyristra said, and her voice was warm. That is precisely why I must do this. You expect nothing, so I give you everything I can. Please, do not refuse me. To refuse would be to dishonor the gift you have given me. Jake looked uncomfortable. I don't want a servant, then accept me as a companion, as a friend, if you will. Let me travel with you, learn about your people, see your world, and in return, I will keep you safe and answer your questions when you have them. A friend. Jake considered this, that I can accept, but you're not bound to me or anything like that, right? You're free to leave whenever you want. Lyristra felt warmth spread through her essence. This human continued to surprise her. Even now, given the chance to bind a being of cosmic power to his will, he insisted on her freedom. I am free, she confirmed, but I choose to stay with you, Jake Sullivan. You have shown me something I had not seen in a very long time. You have reminded me why I loved the younger races enough to be imprisoned for helping them. Jake smiled. Then welcome to the crew of the Explorer 7, though I should warn you, the others are probably freaking out right now. We should let them know I'm okay. Lyristra listened to the radio signals coming from Jake's ship. She could hear the panicked voices of his crew, calling his name, preparing to pull him back. With a thought, she sent a message to their ship, carried on waves of thought rather than radio. Jake Sullivan is safe. He is returning now, and he is not alone. On the ship, Amy and Victor jumped at the voice that suddenly filled their minds. They looked at each other in shock. What was that? Victor asked. I think, Amy said slowly, we're about to meet something incredible. The airlock of the Explorer 7 opened, and Jake stepped through. Behind him came a figure that made the entire crew freeze in place. Lyristra had chosen to appear in a form that would not overwhelm them, but even contained. Her presence was impossible to ignore. She glowed softly, and her eyes held the light of distant stars. Amy's medical scanner fell from her hand and clattered on the floor. Victor grabbed the edge of a console to steady himself. The rest of the crew simply stared, unable to process what they were seeing. Everyone, stay calm, Jake said, removing his helmet. This is she's going to be traveling with us for a while. Commander, Amy managed to say. What exactly is that? She, Jake corrected gently. Not that, she's a person. Lyristra smiled at his words. She stepped fully into the ship, and the airlock closed behind her. The artificial gravity and life support systems flickered for a moment as her presence interfered with them, but she adjusted her energy output and everything stabilized. I apologize for the disruption, Lyristra said, her voice now coming from her physical form rather than appearing in their minds. I am not used to limiting myself to fit within such small spaces. Give me a moment to adapt. Victor found his voice. What are you? I am one of the Ascended Ones, Lyristra explained. My people evolved beyond physical existence millions of years ago. We exist across multiple dimensions simultaneously. What you see before you is a simplified projection, something your minds can comprehend without breaking. And you were in that temple? Amy asked. Trapped there. For 10,000 years, Lyristra confirmed, until your commander freed me. The crew turned to look at Jake with a mixture of awe and confusion. You freed her, Victor said. How? She was bound by ancient magic to grant 3 wishes to whoever entered the temple, Jake explained. I used my first wish to set her free. Amy's eyes went wide. You had 3 wishes. 3, and you used 1 to free her. Jake, do you understand what you gave up? I understand perfectly, Jake said, and I'd make the same choice again. Lyristra watched the exchange with interest. The crew was upset with their commander for what they saw as a foolish decision, but Jake stood firm, comfortable with his choice. It reminded her of why she had been drawn to helping younger species in the first place. They had such capacity for growth, for wisdom, for compassion. Your commander still has 2 wishes remaining, Lyristra said, and I have offered him my service in gratitude for his kindness. Service, Victor repeated. What does that mean exactly? It means I will protect him and those he cares about, Lyristra explained. I will share my knowledge when asked. I will use my power to help when needed. It is a debt of honor, one of the oldest laws of my people. Amy looked between Jake and Lyristra. Commander, can we trust her? I do, Jake said simply. Lyristra felt warmth at his words. Trust was not something she had experienced in a very long time. Her own people had not trusted her judgment, had imprisoned her for it. But this human, who had known her for less than an hour, trusted her completely. I will not betray that trust, Lyristra said quietly. The tension in the room eased slightly. The crew was still nervous, still uncertain, but they trusted their commander. If Jake said this being was safe, they would accept it. Okay, Amy said, but we need to figure out the practical things. Like, do you need a room? Do you eat? Do you sleep? Lyristra considered the questions. I do not require physical space or sustenance. I can exist comfortably anywhere on your ship. As for sleep, I do not need it in the way you do, but I can enter a meditative state if you prefer I not be active at all times. That's probably a good idea, Victor said. No offense, but having someone who can exist across multiple dimensions watching us all the time is a bit creepy. Lyrestra laughed, and the sound was like music. None taken. I will adjust to your customs. I have much to learn about humanity if I am to travel with you. Over the next few hours, the crew slowly adapted to having an ancient cosmic being aboard their ship. Lyrestra asked questions constantly, curious about everything. She wanted to know how the ship worked, what the crew did for entertainment, what they ate, how they related to each other. She was particularly fascinated by human emotions. As an Ascended One, she had moved beyond most physical feelings, but she could still remember what it was like to feel happiness, sadness, fear, and love. Watching the crew experience these emotions reminded her of her own youth. Billions of years ago, Jake found her standing in the observation deck, looking out at the stars. He approached quietly and stood beside her. Adjusting, okay? He asked. Your crew is wary of me, Lyrestra said. I do not blame them. I would be wary too. They'll warm up to you, Jake assured her. Give them time. Time, Lyrestra repeated. I have so much of it, and they have so little. It is strange to be among beings whose entire existence will pass in what feels like a moment to me. Does that bother you? It makes them precious, Lyrestra said, like flowers that bloom for a single day. Their beauty is enhanced by their brevity. Jake thought about that. Is that why you helped younger species? Because we're brief? Partly, Lyrestra admitted, but also because you are full of potential. You grow and change so quickly. You make mistakes and learn from them. You create beauty and meaning in your short lives. It is inspiring to watch. Your people didn't agree. Lyrestra's expression darkened. My people believe that interference corrupts natural development. They think that by helping younger species, we rob them of the chance to grow on their own. Perhaps they are right, but I could not stand by and watch civilizations destroy themselves when I had the power to help. So they locked you up. They imprisoned me in a place where I could do no more harm, as they put it. The temple was designed to contain me until I learned my lesson. She smiled bitterly. 10,000 years, and I learnt nothing except that I was right to help in the first place. Jake put his hand on the railing. For what it's worth, I think you did the right thing. Thank you, Lyrestra said. She was quiet for a moment, then asked, what will you wish for, Jake Sullivan? You have 2 wishes remaining. Surely there is something you desire. I've been thinking about that, Jake admitted. The thing is, anything I wish for just seems selfish, or like it would cause more problems than it solves. Most wishes do, Lyrestra said. That is the curse of unlimited power. It is easy to break things. It is much harder to build them. Then maybe I won't use them at all, Jake said. Maybe I'll just keep them in reserve in case something really important comes up. Lyrestra looked at him with respect. You continue to surprise me. Most beings cannot resist using their wishes immediately. The temptation is too great. I'm patient, Jake said with a shrug. They stood in comfortable silence, watching the stars drift past. Finally, Lyrestra spoke again. What is Earth like? Crowded, beautiful, complicated, full of people trying to figure out how to live together. Jake smiled. You'll see it soon enough. We're about 6 months out at our current speed. I look forward to it, Lyrestra said. I have not seen Earth in 50,000 years. I am curious to see what you have built. Just don't expect too much, Jake warned. We're still figuring things out. We make a lot of mistakes. That is how all species grow, Lyrestra said. The ones who never make mistakes are the ones who never try anything new. Jake nodded. I think you and humanity are going to get along just fine. 6 months after leaving the temple, the Explorer 7 finally entered Earth's solar system. The crew celebrated, knowing they would soon see their families again. But Lyrestra sensed tension in Jake that grew stronger as they approached their home world, the United Earth. Council had been sending messages for weeks. They wanted detailed reports about Lyrestra. They wanted to know what she could do, what she wanted, and most importantly, what Jake planned to do with his remaining wishes. Each message was more demanding than the last. They see you as a resource, Lyrestra said to Jake as they watched Earth grow larger on the view screen. I know, Jake replied. They want me to use my wishes to solve humanity's problems, end all wars, cure all diseases, give us unlimited energy. They have a long list, and you do not want to do these things. Of course I want those things, Jake said. But wishes are not solutions, they're shortcuts, and shortcuts have consequences we can't predict. If I wish away all weapons, people will find new ways to hurt each other. If I cure all diseases, new ones will emerge. If I give Earth unlimited energy, they'll find ways to abuse it. Lyristra nodded. You understand the curse of wishes. That is rare. Besides, Jake continued, if I solve all their problems with magic, what happens to humanity? We need to struggle. We need to make mistakes and learn from them. That's how we grow. If I take that away, I'm not helping. I'm crippling us. Your council will not see it that way. No, Jake agreed. They won't. 3 days later, Jake stood before the United Earth Council. The meeting room was enormous, with representatives from every major nation on Earth. They sat in a circular arrangement, looking down at Jake, who stood in the center. Lyristra stood beside him, and her presence made many of the council members nervous. The council chairman, a stern man named Director Collins, spoke first. Commander Sullivan, your report has been reviewed. The discovery of this being and the wishes she can grant represent the most significant moment in human history. We must discuss how these wishes will be used for the benefit of all humanity. With respect, Director Jake said, the wishes are mine to use. I'm the one who entered the temple. I'm the one Lyristra granted them to. You are a member of the United Earth Fleet, another council member said. That makes you subject to our authority. Those wishes belong to humanity, not to you. Lyristra's eyes began to glow, and her voice carried a warning. The wishes belong to Jake Sullivan. That is the law of magic. No one can take them from him. No one can force him to use them. Any attempt to do so will fail. The council members shifted uncomfortably, but Director Collins pressed forward. Commander, surely you see that you have a responsibility. You have the power to end suffering, to advance our species, to solve problems that have plagued us for centuries. How can you refuse to use that power? Because it's not my right to decide humanity's future, Jake said firmly. These wishes could change everything, but I'm just one person. I don't have the wisdom to know what's best for billions of people. Then let us guide you, Collins said. We have studied the possibilities. We have consulted with scientists, philosophers, and leaders from around the world. We know what wishes would benefit humanity most. Jake challenged. Tell me, if I wished for world peace right now, what would happen? Collins blinked. There would be peace, but how? Jake pressed. Would people suddenly lose the ability to feel anger? Would their free will be taken away? Would their memories be erased so they forget their grievances? Every solution has a cost, and I don't think you've thought about what those costs might be. The council erupted in arguments. Some agreed with Jake, others demanded he use his wishes as commanded. The debate raged for hours, and through it all, Jake stood firm. He would not be bullied into using his wishes. Finally, Director Collins played his final card. Commander Sullivan, if you refuse to use your wishes for the good of humanity, we will have no choice but to consider you a threat. Those wishes could be used against us. We cannot allow such power to exist unchecked. Are you threatening him? Lyristra asked, and her voice made the room temperature drop. We are protecting our species, Collins said. Though he looked afraid now, Jake held up his hand, stopping Lyristra from responding. Director Collins, members of the council, I understand your concerns. I really do, but I'm not your enemy. I'm not a threat. I'm just a person who was given a choice, and I'm trying to make the right one. Then make the right choice, Collins said. Use your wishes to help us. Jake took a deep breath. He had been thinking about this moment for months. He knew what he wanted to say, what he needed to say, but he also knew it would not be popular. I wish, Jake said clearly, and the council fell silent, that all sentient beings would be seen and treated as individuals with inherent worth, not as tools or resources to be used. The words hung in the air. Then Lyristra smiled, and the room filled with soft light. Your wish is granted, she said. Nothing visible changed. The council members looked around, confused, but Lyristra knew what had happened. Jake's wish had planted a seed in the consciousness of every thinking being. It would take time to grow, perhaps centuries, but slowly, inevitably. Beings would begin to see each other differently. They would start to question why they treated others as objects. They would begin to recognize the humanity in those they had dismissed. It would not solve all problems, but it would shift the foundation on which those problems stood. What did you do? Collins demanded. Nothing happened. Something happened, Jake said. You just can't see it yet. But in time, you will. Lyristra looked at Jake with pride and affection. In all my existence, across all the species I have encountered, I have never seen a wish like that. You did not wish for yourself. You did not even wish for your species alone. You wished for all sentient beings, everywhere. It seemed like the right thing to do, Jake said simply. The council continued to argue, but their words had less heat now. Something had changed in the room, though none of them could quite explain what. The anger and demands seemed less important somehow. They found themselves thinking about Jake's words, about treating people as individuals rather than resources. Lyrastra knew the wish was already working. That night, Jake and Lyrastra stood on the observation deck of a space station orbiting Earth. The planet turned slowly beneath them, blue and green and beautiful. "You have one wish left," Lyrastra said. "I know," Jake replied, "and I have no idea what to do with it. You could wish for anything. Your own happiness, the safety of those you love, power to change the world." Jake shook his head. "Those all seem small now. After wishing for the freedom of all beings to be respected, wishing for myself just seems selfish." "It would not be selfish to wish for your own well-being," Lyrastra said gently. "You have earned that right." "Maybe," Jake said. "But I think I'll wait. Something will come along that needs that wish. Something important. And when it does, I'll know." Lyrastra studied the human beside her. In 6 months he had become her friend. More than that, he had become someone she respected deeply. He had freed her when no one else would. He had used his wishes not for himself but for others. He had reminded her why she had believed in the younger races enough to be imprisoned for helping them. "You have changed me, Jake Sullivan," Lyrastra said. "When I was freed, I thought I would observe humanity, learn from you, and then move on to other things. But now I find I do not want to leave. Your species is special. You are worth protecting, worth helping, even though your people imprisoned you for that. Especially because of that," Lyrastra said. "My people were wrong. I see that now. The younger races do not need to be left alone. They need guidance, friendship, and someone to believe in them. You have shown me that it is not interference to care. It is not weakness to help. It is the highest calling a powerful being can have." Jake smiled. "So you're staying?" "For as long as you will have me," Lyrastra confirmed. "I am bound to you by honor, but I stay by choice. You have given me something I lost long ago. You have given me hope." They stood together in comfortable silence, watching Earth turn below them. Somewhere on that planet, Jake's second wish was beginning to work. People were starting to see each other differently. It would take time, perhaps generations, but change was coming, and Jake still had one wish left, held in reserve for when it was truly needed. Lyrastra found herself looking forward to seeing what he would do with it. This human had surprised her twice already. She suspected the third surprise would be the greatest of all.